Okay, we're up to Sif Bays. Now, I have a special interest in this Sif today because it intersects my Shiur where I'm up to in Hilchos Shabbos. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime situation that you should say Shiurim, two totally different inyanim, and they actually are interconnected. So I'm going to start Shaloi B'mkoimoi. Okay? Shabbos before maariv, when Hilchos halachas neiros Shabbos, and in there is a halacha which doesn't deserve to be there. It really should be in Hilchos Tefillah, not in Hilchos halachas neiros, but it is where it is. And I'm going to read. We just learned this halacha this Friday night. I'm going to read it again. And in biyam hamu'unan to'at tzibur v'choshru shechoshcha, they thought it was already dark. V'dliku neiros v'spalul tfilas arba shel shachris v'achakach nispazru ha'ovim v'zorcha chama. They found out that they daven maariv in the middle of the day. Okay? Anybody who was here Friday night remembers we learned this halacha. Einon tzichim nachzor l'spalel arvis. Ve'im k'shespalo hay miplag mincha l'mayla. Ve'im yachid hu shetah b'kach. If it's a yachid who made this mistake, tzarachu lachzor l'spal tfilas arvis. Okay. Says what? Yes, daven again. Whoa, we're not finished yet. Okay. There was all b'tois. Now, what about that tefillas maariv? That was also b'tois. But we're not so concerned about tefillas maariv b'tois, and that's what we're going to see about. Because you did it with a maisa, Kabbalah Shabbos with a maisa is stronger than Kabbalah Shabbos without a maisa. Okay. Says the Bir Halacha. The reason why halachas neiros is worse than davening maariv because it's with a maisa. V'hu me'abeis Yosef l'fizem hay mekabel an atzon Shabbos adei amira hainu adei mizmer shilya mashabbos haisa tois shachar kach nispas of v'zocha chama hay mutarim l'kuli amma b'mlacha. You'd be able to do malacha also. There's no difference. Aval if imasha hizber hagroba b'yiro datam deyesh eminira the gam the toes have a Kabbalah. That Kabbalah betos is also a Kabbalah. V'tfila ein raya, and the fact that you daven and that's betos is not a raya. The tfila betos eino klum. Davening betos, I thought I'm davening maariv. It doesn't make any difference. V'afilu tzibur rak mishum deloi matrachilinu lachzor v'nespalel. There's a special halacha by a tzibur that we're not matriach a tzibur, we don't overtax them. So you thought you did it. Come on, you're potter. Did you do it? No. But not what? Okay, that's why you're here. Okay. The tefillah betos eino klum, v'afilu b'tzibur rak mishum deloi matrachilinu lachzor v'nespalel. V'lachen Kabbalah shabai dei tefillah gam came eino klum. Since the Kabbalah came out dei tefillah, the whole davening never happened. Masha'en came in Kabbalah that happened with the Maisa. V'im kein lefizeh mizmor shir oy stam Kabbalah bal peh dinoi kemo ba'adlaka. Because v'dad the tamagro meyushiv koshesar l'Shabbos and mul bel yerabah. Okay. Now,
even according to the Quran, mizmor shir it toes.
Right. Now let's get to our halacha.
You can have Kabbalah. Like, for example, if you go to an early Shabbos meeting, I put it to my mind, I don't want to receive Shabbos until Baruch Hu. So even though I say L'chododi, it's not my intention to accept Shabbos until Baruch Hu.
I don't know what you do and you have in your mind. That's beyond me right now. But who says, when is it, Shul Ava Shalom in the winter? When are we Mekabel Shabbos?
Mizmor Shir Yamashmas.
Really? All right. I want you to know that that's far from simple. There is a very great machlokes haposkim on this issue. There's a sefer written by Yisrael Dover Halfernes that brings down 4 shitas when the tzibur is makabel Shabbos in our setup of how we daven. We start off l'chun ranana sitting. When do we stand? This is
the last one.
right. So there are those who say the reason why you stand is because that's when you're makabel Shabbos. Okay? There are those that say you're makabel Shabbos when you say l'chodaidi. There are those that say you're makabel Shabbos when you say Mizmor Shiur. And those that say makabel Shabbos when you say Baruch Hu. Even our setup, okay? And there are different people who have different minhagim on the subject. I will just tell you, one of my kids accosted me about 15 years ago because my father stood during l'chodaidi and he sat down for Mizmor Shiur. So my son asked me, why do you sit down for Mizmor Shiur? You're makabel Shabbos by Mizmor Shiur. So I said, I don't know that's when I'm makabel Shabbos. Maybe I'm makabel Shabbos before l'chodaidi altogether. Or maybe I'm makabel Shabbos with l'chodaidi. So the question, the basic minna, according to many of you, stand when you're makabel Shabbos, is far from clear when that is. So when you tell me that you have in mind when you're being makabel Shabbos or when you're not being makabel Shabbos, I have 2 things to tell you. First of all, if you're part of a tzibur, it doesn't make a difference what you have in mind. If the tzibur does it, you're stuck with it. But who says anyways when the tzibur is makabel? maybe the tzibur is all makabel by Baruch Hu. Okay?
Right,
And
so
your tzibur is the shul you're found in.
Well, if let's say, my best example to answer your question is Rabbi Heinemann in Baltimore. Whoever knows what that is, Rabbi Heinemann in Baltimore, he has a community which he calls a kehillah, and he says whoever is a member of the shul has to do all the minhagim of the kehillah. Therefore, in the summer, they have early Shabbos and late Shabbos. The early Shabbos minyan is done downstairs in the hall, and the late Shabbos minyan is done in the shul. Because if they both be done in the shul, so then the migir minyan would be the kaveya, and all the people would be stuck being makabel Shabbos early. So in order to do that, he makes the big minyan the ad hoc minyan, and he doesn't have it in the shul, and that's what he does. Okay, now I'll just tell you, okay, whatever. I'm just get this aspect of halacha is correct. There's no just they're the only ones that have that situation. My father, where he was a rav, he was the only shul in that area for many, many years, so he never made early Shabbos. So why should I cause people to be mechalel Shabbos? Right? Because if the shul is makabel Shabbos, then everybody's makabel Shabbos. So that was it.
But in our Baruch Hashem Israeli societies where you walk 5 minutes, you pass 4 different kehillahs.
I don't think that you pass one.
Okay, I have Rufa Kasha.
It's not a kasha. That's a mitzias. That there is no. There's nothing happens. Okay, you could go by the latest minyan. That's what I would say. Okay.
As far as the Messias is concerned, I have a reason why I was waiting to Baruch Hu, because I wind up my watch as close as possible to the start of Shabbos, so we will continue running after.
I want to tell you something. You're wasting your time.
Yeah.
You could do it when your wife lights candles, and it'll still be going by Motzei Shabbos. If it will not last 27 hours, it's not.
It doesn't always.
What?
It doesn't always. It's an old watch.
Okay. I don't know. But
So I should. So how can I know when Shabbos? When to take? I should go.
I would say
time.
you realize the discussion we're having is a discussion about 5 minutes. You understand that?
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's better to take the first time.
I would say so.
On your way to shul.
No, you could do it in the middle of Kabbalah Shabbos before you stand up, right? Then you're good to go. How much time is the whole? It's not so much time. Okay, now we're going to see why we learned this halacha in a minute. Im to b'yom ha'ma'unon ubercha al Sefiras ha'omer Tuf pei tes beis. Okay. Im to b'yom ha'ma'unon ubercha al Sefiras ha'omer. If they did the same thing, they counted Sefira early. Choyzun lispor mishatechshach. Not like maariv. You count again when it gets dark. V'hamedaktikim enon sofer ma'atzesa kechavim always. V'chein roi lasos. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah. Hu midivrei harashba b'tshuva. Umevur sham shakahol shespalo gam maariv koidem. If the tzibur dav a maariv beforehand, le'inyan maariv ein lehem lachzor l'spalel. Why? Mishum tircha de tzibura kidal il reish samach gimel sif yudalit. Right? This is what we learned this week. That's why it worked out so wonderfully. Rak le'inyan svira loy mashkechinon betircha didhu. Ki ech yomer l'mashal asara yomim ve'enum elatisha. We're not worried about tircha because how could you say a lie? You say today is 10 days and it's really only 9 days, and therefore it doesn't work until Tzeisak Echovim. Ad kan Devar of Shom. Okay, this is the shita of the Mishnah Berurah. Now, I'd like to look in the Sharat Tzion. There's a fascinating Sharat Tzion over here. Ubabir agra krosos svara cheres lachalek ben hodet tefillah. Mishum dekan ein tzarech tzibor. Ad kan l'shoynei. For Sefiras ha'omer, there's no real halacha that you need Sefira with a minyan. There's a very non-Hasidish Mishnah Berurah, right? You think you need really all Klal Yisrael to count Sefira, but the Mishnah Berurah says over here you don't need a minyan. I will just tell you that the Paiskim, the Tshuva Sfarim, discuss a fascinating question. Should I, let's say, I'm willing to say that everybody over here, in theory, would daven maariv at 8:15, right? I don't think anybody over here has a problem with davening maariv at 8:15. But you're davening maariv at 9 o'clock. Should I, at 8:15, count Sefira b'yechidus and be Mekayim Zrizim Magdimim L'mitzvos? Or should I wait until 9 o'clock and then do it with a minyan? There's a machlokes on this issue.
The same thing before Kriyas Shema?
No, because Kriyas Shema, according to some, is a chelik of the tefillah also. There's a different, an added aspect over there. Okay, but it's a similar kind of a question.
If a person, like, the congregation starting to say Sefiras Omer, this man is already counting half an hour beforehand, so he walks out.
Can I ask you a question? Why does he have to walk out? And he's going to come. Why does he have to say Elenu?
Elenu's tefillas are there.
Elenu, Kaddish, Tehillim. We have a whole day in front of you.
I just got confused. I know the preceding shoot. Sometimes go to the preceding shoot from Maariv, and there you have in Sefira comes before Elenu.
After
Elenu.
Okay. Yeah. All right, but I'm just telling you, the person who has Maras Ayin issues, he could deal with those issues, and there are many ways to deal with those issues. I always will tell you something: you could always count Sefira again, just without a bracha.
So you're also taking a risk because you might forget that you counted it half an hour before and end up saying the bracha again.
Okay, if you have that problem, then you don't have your question, right? If you don't remember that you counted, then you know. Okay. Anyways, So here the Goin says, he says the kan ain't tzarich letzibur v'le'ovim madua chidesh tam acher v'chikura masha kosav Rashba l'loy ba'achinin betircha b'davar shug neged achush. The Rashba says clearly why we don't worry about tircha, because you're contradicting yourself. It's clearly the wrong day that you're counting. So why does the Goin? Okay, so there are those who answer this question by saying this is a Goin l'shitosai from Siman Reish Samach Gimel, where there he's chaylik if there's such a thing as that it really is called that you davened or not. So these two Goins go together, and therefore he comes up with his idea that you don't need a tzibur, because in neither cases is it called that you really counted. Okay, now what it says over here in Shulchan Aruch is what I call the classical halachic pickle. What is the halacha? Okay, when somebody asks me, what is the halacha? There are very few things that I know what the halacha is. I know you have to daven shachris, mincha, maariv. That's almost where it stops. You know what I mean? After that, there's always so much fine print. And we started off, I'm going to tell you, we started off and we said that a person can count Sefira ben Hashmoshes. Now, we say, V'amedaktikim einon soifrim atzeis hakechovim. Right? V'chein roi lasos. So it's roi for a person to count Sefira, b'tzeis hakechovim. From when can someone count Sefiras ha'omer l'chatchila? Ben Hashmoshes. So what does it mean that that's when you're supposed to count? How do we understand this is like a sliding scale, right? And just to make life more complicated, I walked into Koil yesterday, and so since I was waiting for you to come, I have a question to ask you. So I said, what's your question? So he asked me, how long is Ben Hashmoshes? So I said, now the fellow who asked me this question is a Chabatzker. So I said to him, maybe 10 minutes. So he says, do you mean that for real? So I said, I'm pretty close to that's what I think. So he says, oh. So I asked him, why are you asking this question? So he said his shul was right now under construction, and this Erev Shabbos they had Arab workers that were putting up a mechitza. I don't mean a string with they're putting up a wall, and they were running late. They were supposed to have finished by 3:00, but they were goofing off, and they were told that they have to finish by Ben Hashmoshes. And he asked me, till when were they able to work? Okay? So I said, no, you're asking a question, right? Till now it's just like, So Moshe Feinstein has a tshuva where he says, could be for Amir La'akim, in such a situation, you could go till Ben Hashmoshes of Rabbeinu Tam. Here in Eretz Yisrael, I'm willing to say that Rabbeinu Tam is a chumrah. In other words, for the tzibur at large, I don't think that there's anybody in Eretz Yisrael, Nachon Lahayom, that does malacha 30 minutes after Shkia. I don't think they do malacha 30 minutes after Shkia. At least the Rebbe didn't. No, it's...
He did because he would get fired.
It didn't say when they daven mincha. Okay, so I said I'm willing to say that the accepted psak in Klal Yisrael is some form of the Goinim. Now, some form of the Goinim means that night is anywhere from 13 to 36 minutes after Shkia. Okay, I'm not going to go get involved in all the different how we get to those numbers. So 12 minutes is already past Bein Hashmoshes according to some, because in the 12th minute it could be already that switching. So that's how I got to 10 minutes. Because, right, So I said, you have a guy work until 10 minutes after Shkia, that's okay. So I said to him, how long did the guy work for? I said, Baruch, about 10 minutes. I said, okay, that's okay. But, so now you're going to ask me, can you count Sefiras HaOmer 20 minutes after Shkia? It's the middle of the day. The next day. Right? Right? So, now, when is it Vaday Laila? So in Eretz Yisrael, I'm right now just laying down the Minhag HaMakom. I think that everybody will tell you that it's Vaday Laila 30 minutes after Shkia. On Motzei Shabbos, they're Machmer, K'tais Shabbos, they go 36 minutes, 37 minutes, a different shittas, but those people say 30 minutes. If you would ask Rabbi Yashiv, when is it Vaday Laila, he would say after 30 minutes. And that's the, more or less, Shlomo Zalman would say 26 minutes. I'm not, but this 72 is Hasmi Lahaskir. That's, I think so, in Eretz Yisrael, yeah. In other words, I want to make this clear. What I'm saying right now is not my personal opinion. I spoke to a Jew almost 40 years ago. He was about 90. And he was brought up in Pressburg. And I asked him, when was Kabbalah Shabbos in Pressburg? In the summer. And when was it in the winter? And when did they do Mulacha on Motzei Shabbos? And he, spit out like a computer the information. They were not, Shkia was a non-existent thing. They did Mulacha after Shkia on Friday. And it was Ois Shabbos before Rabbeinu Tam. Okay? And I heard this from many people. But he was from the last people that I asked this question to. And this is actually supported in a tshuva from the Chassam Sofer. No, this is not a Yachid's opinion. And just to make it clear, the minhag in Klal Yisrael before the war in Europe was mostly like Rabbeinu Tam. Not like the Goinim. Now, I'll just share with you some of the history, because it's very important to understand. Rav Moshe Feinstein writes in a tshuva that 55 minutes in America is equal to the darkness that there was in Russia at 72. So if you held 72 in Russia, you only have to hold 55 in America. Whether that approximation is correct and whether that halacha is correct is under debate. The Belzer Rebbe, Rabbi Avrohom Belzer, he had a similar cheshbon. There is a Belzer Rabbeinu Tam, which is an adjusted from Europe to Eretz Yisrael. And both of these are going on the same principle that the night, and this is actually a Rashi in Shabbos, which makes this quite clear, night is a quality of darkness. Night is not an astrological happening. I think it went to everyone. The question is, when does that happen?
What's all these different
Which is the slab of darkness?
No, I think that's. I think everybody agrees to that.
What all the times you kind of how far north or south the city you're talking about is?
That's Chuba's Binyan Sion.
Is there Russia can go northern city, southern city?
Yes, well, this is taken into 13 and a half degrees under the horizon. Is I think B'nai Tzion is the name of the Tshuva Sefer that was written about 120 years ago. No, and it's how many degrees the sun is under the horizon will give you the same amount of darkness adjustable throughout. This is all we're already in the generation that we can figure this all out. Okay? I'm just saying that this is important for Sefiras HaOmer. This is not the place where you have to be machmer on all the shittas of the Zmanim. The big question on the Rabbeinu Tam and the non-Rabbeinu Tam people that there are in halachas, as far as my concern is, the Beis Yosef paskins like Rabbeinu Tam. That's what you read Shulchan Aruch. That's what he says. Okay. The problem is, where did the Beis Yosef live? In Tzvas. So it's very hard for those who say Rabbeinu Tam was said in France, right? But how could you say that Rabbeinu Tam was said in France if the Beis Yosef who lived in Tzvas paskin like Rabbeinu Tam? Okay, but this is, I'm not giving a shiur on this Zmanim right now, but the concept over here is, here it says that a person shouldn't count until it says Sakechavim. And in summation, the sentence I'd like to say is, I don't think that there is anybody, unless a super machmer, that would tell you that you have to wait for Rabbeinu Tam and Eretz Yisrael to count. You have to wait for Tzei Sakechavim. Let's not forget, Ben Hashmoshes, you're already Yaitza. So, what's Ben Hashmoshes? I think that most people will be maskim your Yaitza, so that's what the halacha should be. Okay, B'chein Roy Lasos. So let's continue with the Mishnah Berurah. A person should count b'bracho kedin v'amedaktikim rotzon elomer demina dayin haya efshel lispor misha techshach. Ach koydem tzei sakechavim. You could count once it gets dark, even though it's before tzei sakechavim. The bein hashmoshes hu safek laila. Bein hashmoshes is safek laila. V'azlinan lekula b'safek derabanan. And therefore you can count then, and okay, Ella the mikol makom ein nochon lahachmis atzmo lesafek lechatchila ulahachi hamedaktikim matinu matzei sakechavim mishuv vaday laila. So the Mishnah Berurah says that really al pi halacha, if somebody asks, when can you count Sefiras from? The answer is from Ben Hashmoshes. But in order to do that, you have to rely on a suffix, and we should try avoiding relying on a suffix, and therefore we wait till it's Vaday night. V'chein roi lasos, ritzonu le'emar lechatchila, mikol mokom b'diavad, im birach Ben Hashmoshes yotza. Why? Because that's when the Zman is. A person, even if he counted Ben Hashmoshes and your Yaitza, he should count again when it's Vaday night to make sure that he got the night according to all the Paiskim. Okay.
That again is the Ikar of Sefiras, or that's for the next day's bracha?
No, it's for the Ikar Sefiras. Okay. Says the Biur Halacha. I Mishnah Berurah Dimsi Ben Hashmoshes Yatza. Chen Kasu Amagen Avrohom Shayach Davar Zeh Muska B'Tosef V'Menachos. Okay. The Das HaShulchan Aruch the Ben Hashmoshes Hu Shlosh Rivei Mil Koydem Tzei Sakechavim Shu Kor L'Rev Ashal Be'erach Vaday Yom. Okay, V'ayim Biur Halacha Dibra Maskil Shiur B'Sof De'avav Yasod the Ben Hashmoshes Maskil Miyad Achar Shkia. Well, the Inyan Shabbos Naktin L'Chuma Kreb Yehuda, Aval L'Hakol Af B'Mili D'Rabbanan Tzorch Yinim Nuchol L'Hakol Lemar Tarti Kula Echad the Ben Hashmoshes Kreb Yehuda Av B'Sveged Devan L'Kula Kivan the Rav Yosef Havi Vaday Yom. So who says you could counting Ben Hashmoshes from Shkia? Maybe you have to wait till before night. Kol Zman Shkia Tzavach Tzei Sakechavim. All right. So this is a question when it is the Ben Hashmoshes. So according to what I said, and I'm going to repeat what I said, if 30 minutes or 36 minutes is Vaday Laila, and you counted 15 minutes after Shkia, you're doing great. You're Zicher. According to some, you're after Vaday Laila, and according to others, you're well into Ben Hashmoshes. Okay. What? A person, depends how big of a machmer you are. But I don't think a person is really mechuyev to. Okay. Now we're going to learn probably the most complicated halacha in Sefiras Omer, and this is the place where whenever I learn this halacha, I say this is the shimush of how to be a rabbi. This halacha. HaMispalel im hatzibur mibod yom. A person's davening with the early minyan. Moine imohem b'loi bracha. Count, or don't make a bracha because they're counting in the wrong time. V'im yiskor b'layla yivarach v'yispor. And if you remember at night, then you count again with a bracha. V'afilu ada amin al birchas hakol im haya b'daita shel lotzes yachzu yivarach v'yispor b'layla. Okay. Now, we said something very strange. If he davened im hatzibur miba'od yom. What do those words miba'od yom mean? Okay. That's a possibility. Is that okay? Say, let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Yesh me'achroinim shepirshu dahainu ben hashmoshes. It means ben hashmoshes to safek laila. V'yetzin oz yidei sfira la poiskim d'sfira b'zman hazeh d'rabonon. So after the halacha we just said that the medaktikim are supposed to count by tzesek echavim. So miba'od yom means before then. Okay, not like you. Okay. Now and this is what many people do. The many people they count with the tzibur early, and then when they go home, they count again with a bracha. Okay, he has a line. Kavana lo yotzeis, bedavke bechaven shlo yotzeis. Mistama yotzem. The man the omer mitzvah ein tzichas kavana. V'after because chin le'il b'simin zeh the mitzvah tzichas kavana. Asher le'yim bracha tzorach lahasker shem shomayim tzorach lochol shlach deya. Okay. No, that ain't tzichas kavana. Okay, and therefore you should have kavana mefurish that you're not being yotze. V'yavarach v'yispar balayla. V'afilu b'erev Shabbos shekvar kilo Shabbos gam mispalel matzibur. Afilu hachi yavarach v'yispar balayla. Kivan shalei rotza lotzeis b'masha safer imoim ben hashmoshes. V'kosu achronim dim yotzo kechavim mutter lispor afilu lo yispal adayin maariv. V'afilu hu motzei Shabbos deholayla hu l'chol mili. V'afilu l'kirish u'lavdola mutter kodim atfilu el she'osa b'mlocha ad sheyavdil. That the halacha of Sefira is not dependent on anything else. As long as it's night, then you can count. Now comes the bir halacha. This is the main piece. We learned this halacha not like Gil. Okay, now we're going to learn this halacha like Gil. Okay, you made it into the books. Okay, Mashra mehem demi plag milcha lekuli amol eno yochol limnos. You can't count from plag milcha. Okay, v'dad yesh harbe achroinim halavush vel yerabah chok yankif ma mordechai nar shalom de mefarshim miba'od yom hainu miplag mincha l'mayla. Miba'od yom means in the daytime. No.
Mamish
daytime. Umayda come moine mohem. So why are you counting with them? It's the wrong time. Hainu mishum da'af agav de meikir hadin. Kozman she'enu laila en lizman sfira. You can't count. Mikol mokom yesh mekom she'nogu lahakol b'zeh mishay ragil nispal maariv kodev chashecha. V'chashum lo yispru oz b'tzibur yechol kolecha lebeisoi v'yishkechu machmas tirda v'lo yispru v'yisvatel ikil teira sfira. And the whole sfira will fall apart. Okay.
They're not counting.
What?
When they're counting shul, they're not counting.
Right. When you're interrupting in the middle of a sentence. Al kain samchu b'mokom atchak ayesh mi she'omer d'sfira b'zman hazeh shurak zechel l'mikdash. Sfira isn't even a mitzvah d'rabbanan; it's a zechel l'mikdash. Ve'en lahach b'bo yeser mikriya shema v'tila. And you don't have to count on the right day. V'kivan d'chashivi le'lascholas halayla v'korin shema mispal maariv. Kamo ken yeshonu lachshov layla le'inyan sfira. Okay, now this is a difficult pill to swallow. V'ka'amar da'af mishu talmid chacham im libo nachvo shema yitarid v'yishach lispa v'yachidus yochol lispol matzibor af lo yevarech oz al kapanu to make adin in his man sira oz. It's the wrong time. Ela shalom menichin minig oisam mekamis kadesh lo yisbatul legamri mitzazu. And then ukshagia azman balayla yevarech v'yispor ve'eno brocha levatala. Why? The smir kamaisa lav klumhu meikar adin. So basically what we said was you do nothing, and that works. Okay? What's strange?
They're not doing, so they shouldn't forget the mitzvah. They don't do the mitzvah?
No.
Okay.
That's not, you missed, you left out a piece.
In the least possible way.
But it's not, they're counting 7 and it's 6.
If you can say Shema and you can stop and then you can
Right.
What is it?
They're doing a Zeichel HaMikdash. They're doing the mitzvah ala teken shel Zeichel HaMikdash. And the Zeichel HaMikdash, you could do it like Tefillah. And it's called night. According to that brand, it's called night.
It's not called night, it's called Zeichel HaMikdash.
No. In Zeichel HaMikdash, that's what he says, in Zeichel HaMikdash, then you could do it in a time that you could daven and you could say Kriya Shema, you can also count. It doesn't have to be the day. Okay? So we're doing, that's not, we don't paskin like that. But the minig is based on that concept.
Which minig is based on?
This minig of counting before Shkia.
So, someone goes to early Shabbos and he's afraid he'll forget. Is it something to do some?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. This is a place where they have that minig. In other words, we don't, because there was such a minig, this is a very important concept always. You'll find all over, in all areas of halacha, that there are places that had minhagim, and they're shalei ali b'dilchos like this. No, it's like, not, I can't say I can't explain. I can explain to this how we get here, but this is not the halacha. This was instituted for those reasons. A person who finds himself as an individual in a difficult situation, I don't think he has the right to pull out old rusty guy, there's such a minig, and use that for his situation. I don't think that that's relevant for us to be able to do.
Because the situation is different than when they did it?
No, because that's not the minig. In order to do this thing, Shalei Ali B'dei Hilchos, it has to be that there's that you're doing your minig.
This was the minig in South Africa.
Really?
100%.
Just tell me something. In South Africa now is the winter, right?
Now?
Is the winter?
Yes. Yeah. But still,
What time is Shkia?
that's what we used to do. The Chazan, the Shneach Tzibur made the brocha, everybody just counted.
And then,
Nine.
really?
And then in the meantime, and as you remember, we did the count.
When you made did you make a bracha when you went home?
Yeah, if you remember, right?
Well, if you don't remember, you don't make a
No,
bracha.
that was the point. Yeah, but that's not. If I remember,
Oh, this is
yeah,
nothing.
then I'm making, yeah.
And they did. It was before Shkia the maariv. Wasn't Ben
That's why
Hashemah.
people went on. That's how it was. Mincha maariv. People
But
went-
Mincha Maariv, when you went home after maariv, it was still light outside.
Wasn't like this early Shabbos yet, but it was before.
So I don't know. I'll just tell you a personal thought that I have. This idea of davening before Shkia was in the days before electricity, and to go home when it was dark was an issue. How did people go home? They drove to shul,
Yeah, we tried.
right? Cars have headlights in South Africa.
It wasn't that, but people. No one was gonna come. No one was gonna come back this side once people came off.
No, I didn't say it. I didn't say that. But if you would daven maariv after Shkia, when you would get home, it would still be twilight. So in other words, I don't know why they couldn't.
The workday ended. So at the end of the workday.
What's that? What time does work end?
That's
No, I'm not arguing. I'm just trying to figure out.
25 years ago. Look now, I'm saying that was like in the the shkunot that were away from. And there was the shkunot that were from. You know what I'm saying? So that were. They had a minyan late at night. If you want, but there was a real slip to go to that minyan.
I understand, but no, it's but there was no such thing as going out again afterwards.
Yeah.
You went down mincha maariv on the way home, and that was the end.
That's it.
Okay, yeah.
This minhag, we're not going to pull it out of the user a lot, but they made a bracha every day at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever it was. That's what they did. This was with the bracha.
He said we should have 2 women there.
And so he says that they were mitzamtzim and they just had one person.
One guy do them.
One.
But theoretically, they could all make
They
it.
made a bracha, and if you remembered today, tomorrow you would, and you did, you forgot tomorrow, you'd count the next night with the bracha. This is like
Right. This was a valid option in certain communities. So that what?
Shkia could be late.
Yeah, but he's talking about say England.
Well, that's not in South Africa. South Africa is Olam Haba in this world, right?
Pittsburgh.
What?
Pittsburgh or Northern Europe.
Okay, in those places, I'll just tell you, in most places in North America, during Sefira at least, the minyanim for Mincha Maariv, they did before Shkia, after Shkia. In other words, they daven Maariv right after Shkia, but they daven Maariv ben Hashmoshes, except for Erev Shabbos. That's in most places, even in Detroit, where Detroit is like it's at the end of a time zone, so it's very late. But they did Mincha Maariv was together with Shkia. I don't know.
Shkia in Johannesburg, 5:38.
5:38. So I can't understand.
That's a bit. I don't remember.
No, but I'm saying, but you're telling me that you finished work at 4 o'clock.
No, Shkia's at 5:38.
Right, and it have to be that they finished Maariv before Shkia.
Maybe it's going to I don't.
No, so
While we've done it, it's 9.
because you did Ben Hashmoshes.
Just for
After
Hashmoshes.
Shkia.
The Ben Hashmoshes, that would tell someone to do that. But that's okay, because if you counted Ben Hashmoshes, then you're b'diavad, you're counted.
So you have to make it snot.
Yes, I do believe that that's what they do in America. I can't believe that they were davening at 5 o'clock Maariv, right? It's a little early.
There was also no reason.
No, if they made Mincha Maariv at 5 o'clock, 5:15, after people were done with work, but 5:38.
5 o'clock is
Mincha Maariv.
Supper's at 6 o'clock.
So,
You could make it. No, I'm saying with the Shkia, it works out. Okay, no, it's okay. Okay, I guess we'll stop over here.